How many you want? Utility ash trees you want, all of that, you know, what we spent one day pushing trees out of one farm, and then Tom went back today and found another one, and they pushed another one fell out again since he planted it. We need to get a full field fire. They're just dropping like crazy, they're ash trees.
It's a special glue. I explained it, I decided not to do it because it was so expensive.
Farming the Brone, we had 2 nurses on the fall lawn, you know, and they were teaching it, so they put them down the right. China, probably China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's where I want to go.
I mean, we went around the back fifties. I don't have one.
No, that's right. So I guess it was for Alex.
No conscience, no heart. Good evening. I want to welcome you to the Village of Waukesha Board Meeting on May 25th, 2023. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Kalinsky. Here. German.
Here.
Stigler.
Here.
Gorecki.
Here.
Buckholz.
Here.
Open meeting law compliance check. The agenda was posted on the 3 village public notice boards, the village website, and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on or before 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Okay, citizen comments. Anybody in the audience have something they want to come up and say at this time?
Good evening. Sandy Hom, West 230, South 3827, Milky Way Road. I just had 2 things I wanted to mention real quickly that kind of are out there lingering around. One is I know people have asked me and people are concerned about the original purchase and then sale of the building up the road, the old dental office, and how much money we made or lost on that. And you know, if someone has to do an open records request to find that out, that's fine, but it'd be nice if that information was shared somewhere. And then the other thing is I keep asking every 6 months or so where the suit is with the city. The city was, last I knew, suing us, suing the village for becoming a village, and it seems 6 months go by at a crack, a year goes by at a crack, and I don't hear anything. So is that just the state administration and justice system, or anyway, I'd love to hear about that story. Thank you.
Can I answer that? Well, I'm going to answer that one quickly. I guess we haven't heard anything either, so it's still pending as far as we know with the Board of Appeals. So I don't know when it's going to ever get settled. That's their prerogative, I guess, at this point. So, anybody else? Moving on to reports. Clerk Treasurer, do you have anything you want to?
It's in the packet.
Madam Clerk, before you move on, while you were out of town, I posed a question to the Deputy Clerk regarding the categories for our budget. I know at the last budget workshop, there was a lot of confusion over which items belonged under which heading, and I know that you mentioned that you were going to work on clearing up those categories. I'd just like a status update on that.
Yes, Beth and I have been working with that, and we are getting the stuff into the correct categories.
So the categories have been completed, and that's
Yeah,
all set?
there's no change in categories. We've just been doing a much better job of paying attention and getting the expenses into the correct categories.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. DPW, Jerry's not here. I assume he's got a report in the packet. Fire Department, Andy's not here. Packet report. I don't know, Sheriff, do you have anything you want to add or anything? Nothing? Weed Commissioner, got anything, Mike, or it's in the packet?
Nothing to add unless they got questions.
Okay. Non-compliance, I guess that's on the packet also. Anybody have any issues on that? I think it's up to date. Approval of the previous meeting minutes of April 27th, 2023. Do we have a motion or questions on that?
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 27th, 2023 as recorded.
Trustee Gurecki moves to approve the previous meeting minutes of April 27th. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Trustee Buchholz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Abstain.
Who abstains?
Both.
I wasn't at that one.
Tom, did you say? I thought there was two voices over there, no?
Yeah, that was last meeting, right?
End of April.
April 27th.
Yeah, well, I withdraw my abstention.
I thought you were here.
Vote aye.
Thank you for clarifying all that. Discussion and possible action items. Operator's license for Livia Harrow. Chris, do we have any, nothing on that, right? No background check was good? Yeah.
There was no records found in the background check.
Okay,
So, Mr. President, I'd move to approve the application for Livia Harrow.
okay. It's moved by Trustee Gurecki to approve the license for Livia Harrow. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee German. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Operator's license for Haley Grohol. Chris, anything?
No, there was no records found in the background check.
Okay,
Mr. President.
go ahead.
I'll move to approve the operator's license application for Haley Grohol.
Trustee moves to accept the operator's license for Haley Grohol. Is there a second?
I'll second that also.
Seconded by Trustee German. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next item is Sunset Drive and Prairie Avenue Traffic Signal Project cost share with the city of Waukesha. I think it was about a month ago or a little longer than that, maybe even now. I got a email from the city of Waukesha saying they were going to change or redo the traffic lights at Sunset and Prairie, and our cost share would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I thought it was $60,000. Is that correct? Yes. They wanted an answer in 3 days at that time, and I said, there's no way I can do that, so we didn't, and they said that they can do this. There's a grant involved with this, cost sharing, so that they can postpone it and do it the next round, as they called it. And I said, that's great. I said, I'll bring it to the board, and we'll work on it then. But then I also got a letter from the mayor saying that why weren't we moving on this faster? I kind of didn't really respond to that, but anyway, this is where we're at. This is more of a notice that for you guys to know that this is coming up, and I guess we really probably have to do this. I mean, it's nothing that we wouldn't do normally. It is probably our share of the cost. It's an expensive project, I believe. I don't know, Chris, do you remember the numbers? Wasn't it like? Yeah, and we kind of figured it'd probably go to 600 before it's all said and done, before we get our finals, so.
Signaling at intersections is extremely expensive.
Yeah, they say the underground wiring there has deteriorated terribly. I guess it's 30 years ago that it was installed last, something like that,
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
The only thing I would mention is they reference
mention in the letter an agreement, but they don't provide it. Has anyone seen it? Does anyone know what the agreement says? I remember we had a sidewalk agreement that they tried to say we had to abide by, and I ruled we did not.
Yeah, that's what the annexation they did back in the day on the corner there, right?
I did have the old agreement, I don't have it with me. Oh, I have it in the.
I just think somebody better check the agreement. Agreed. Just a comment.
They wanted an updated agreement once this was.
So there was one done with the town back in the day?
Yes, I did see it, I don't remember where I have it though.
They're asking for half the balance from us. Is it the onus on them to provide the agreement?
Well, I agree with that. I think we should get to that point. We would have an agreement and get the final, I mean, we're just in the preliminary at this point. I mean,
No, they're saying there is an agreement.
They're saying there is one.
Existing on file that says that we're responsible for 50%. Even though, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, most, if not the entire intersection is in the city?
Not on Prairie.
That's right at the.
The entire intersection is actually in the village.
Village. I was gonna say, I think it's more the Otway than it is the cities.
As I recall, there's an agreement for, between the two communities for our stretch of Sunset from the railroad tracks to past Center that was established many moons ago when the road was initially reconstructed and the signals were put in and storm sewer was put in and other things. So I think there's, I probably have a copy of that agreement somewhere if you can't find it, but that's a before my time kind of agreement. I'm not quite sure what it says, but it sounds familiar that it's 50%.
50%, okay, because I know Clunky Cleaners and Dunkin' Donuts and all that got annexed in, and that's part of that intersection.
Right, but they didn't take the right of way when they annexed.
They did not, we had to come up with the sidewalk because they wanted us to pay for the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that fixed, that the sidewalk was in the city, so that, but not the street.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the right of way is fully within the village
Okay.
of Prairie and of Center, or Sunset at that location.
So 50% would be probably fair.
Mm-hmm.
There was an agreement.
I'm not saying we have to do it tonight. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think we need to look into that.
There's
There was
somebody.
an agreement signed in 1989 that highlights that said the town will pay to the city the equivalent cost. Oh, the sanitary sewer, sorry. I thought there was something.
Well, let's get some more information on that, and we can bring that back next time for clarification as to what that agreement really is and get copies made. I just wanted you guys to be aware of this, that it's coming, and I want to,
We may need to make a,
If that whole intersection's in the village, why is the city
Well-
making the decision of doing the traffic signals?
that's an interesting comment.
Are there other intersections that they're planning to upgrade?
I'm not aware
And
of,
they're
but I mean, they
doing
just did
a
the
grant for all
Sunset
of them?
Drive when they just remodeled Sunset Drive, repaved it all. I thought would have been an ideal time then to do this, but
Mm-hmm. Not
'Cause
sure what,
everything to the west got updated.
yep, not sure why they would be doing this, but
I don't know.
maybe it's because they're the ones actually, sort of maintaining the signals, because we normally wouldn't, we
No,
don't
we
have
don't maintain the
signals.
signals,
right.
no, true.
I guess, it's probably part of that agreement. That
As I said, I wasn't trying to do the research tonight. I
'Cause we
was
could put
just
stop
getting-
sign.
Somebody should probably check to make sure what they're saying is true.
We will do
I
that.
thought it was in the packet, I have agreement right here.
Well,
I didn't see any agreement in
let's
the
move on here. I think we'll have to get that out.
Are you looking for a motion for some direction, Mr. President? or-
Not at this point. I'd put it on the agenda here tonight just so that I didn't want to, I was kind of blindsided by this. I didn't realize this, and I kind of thought you guys might be too when the push comes to shove. But I mean, we need to prepare ourselves to know that we're going to have to maybe pony up here for the cost of this. It's
60
a cost
grand.
share deal. It's not the whole thing. So, I mean,
Frankly, if they took the lead, submitting the application, getting the grant, doing everything, I don't have any problem paying our side. I just want to make sure we're
yeah,
paying what we're
right.
supposed to pay.
I think that's appropriate. But I just want to make you aware that when we get this, that we're kind of prepared for it and know that it's going to happen.
I
Are
think
they gonna
it-
call you tomorrow and ask you what the decision was?
No, I
Yes,
don't.
they are.
They are?
Yes, Darren is going to call me tomorrow, wants to know what the decision is.
Okay, then maybe we do need to do a motion on this.
We should also be prepared, because I think the DOT grant is an 80-20 split, and our half is 10% of the 20.
Yep.
But as I recall, those grants are typically, you pay and then you get reimbursed. So I don't know if the,
From what I understand, the city is going to bill us for our 10% of what the cost share would be.
and they're gonna float all of
They're
it.
gonna float all of it, but I will make sure
Good deal.
that is.
I would, that would be part of the discussions, I'm sure, so.
Yeah, frankly, I don't see how we can make a decision on that tonight without those details. So there's no way for us to float if we're required to
We're not
float.
going, they're
Oh,
not
we're
floating
going
it
to
though.
float.
They're saying they're going to float it. That's what Chris is saying.
Okay, is that in the paperwork here? I didn't see that, but I just want to verify that before we take any action, as well as verifying our cost share. That's all.
I think the important thing to know is, or the important part of the action is, are you willing to cooperate? That's probably what they want to know tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what they want to know.
Probably want to honor our agreement, basically, is what you're
Right.
saying, right? I guess that we could do, give a motion to
Cooperate?
honor the agreement that we pay our share per agreement, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we add subject to the, and I don't know if you want the engineer or the clerk to verify the, agreement, the responsibility under the agreement, and to verify that they are willing to, front the money.
What did you say first to start? Motion, what was your original motion?
Well, it was they said it was a motion to honor the agreement. And I said, subject to verification by, I don't know if let's just say by the engineer, village engineer, he's got to monitor the project, right? The village engineer, reviewing the agreement and being satisfied that this is our responsibility, and subject to their agreeing to front the money. Which, Chris, you can call and verify that and do a follow-up letter to them.
Sure.
Just so we have a paper trail,
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
So we need a motion.
That's the motion.
that's the motion. He extended my motion, I guess, John, and I'm fine with that. I would agree to that.
Yeah, I'll second that motion then.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Number D, or letter D, no through trucks over 3 ton sign on Oak Knoll Drive and Merrill Hills Road. I have been getting emails from a resident on that road. There are signs on Oak Knoll in 59 now. There's signs on the end of Merrill Hills Road that leads to Oak Knoll, but there's no sign exactly on Oak Knoll in Merrill Hills Road. This isn't going to stop trucks from going on the roads. I mean, their trucks are allowed to, if they have deliveries or whatever on that road, they don't need any kind of permission or anything else. But if it's a through truck that starts at that one intersection, goes all the way through the road and comes out on another section, does not make a delivery or have any business on that road, then it's a violation. These people, I've gotten several emails, I've explained to them, I said, it's really not going to stop trucks necessarily from doing construction work on that road, but they want a sign, and I'm at the point where I would go along with putting a sign there, just to appease them.
Mr. President, I don't know if you've talked to Jerry at all, the
Yes.
DPW director, to get an approximate cost for each of these signs? Because we-
$100 roughly, I think, and Jerry says he might even have one in the shop.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to post these signs at those intersections.
It's just one sign.
Excuse me.
It's just one.
Yeah,
It's
the one sign.
Yeah, okay,
I'll second it.
okay.
So now, let's
And-
just make sure you understand what you're doing, because you're setting a precedent, And I have no problem with you doing it, but if you have to understand, there's already a sign at the intersection at the north, and there's already a sign on the south. So anybody on that road illegally, when they come upon the middle sign, it's too late. Okay, so I understand you're putting it on at the request of the citizens and you want to address that, and I'm fine with that, but you gotta understand that the sign serves no purpose at that point, because we have signs at their street at 59, Merrill Hills at 59, at the north end of Merrill Hills, and this is in the middle. And so, I understand why you're doing it, I wanna make sure you understand what you're doing, so if you get another request for another sign that really doesn't serve any purpose, as Bob has indicated to them, as the president's indicated to him, but Jerry said, maybe we'll just put it there, and if we have it, and it's only $100. But, so, I just wanna make sure we understand, because we get a lot of requests. I had a community a number of years ago where their board decided, if the citizens asked for a stop sign, they were gonna put it up. Even if it didn't meet the requirements of the manual. There's a manual that Chris has, that tells him where stop signs should go, where yield signs should go, where speed limit signs should go. I don't think it says, Chris, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, although the manual is huge, it has a lot to do about weight limits. The courts have deemed where you need weight limit signs more than the manual. I never recommend you put a sign up that violates the manual, because that's just asking for a lawsuit, you know. But this community, somewhat the way the village president has indicated, he's received numerous requests, he's gonna respect those requests. They did the same thing with stop signs. And I tell you, to this day, when I drive through that subdivision, there is a stop sign on almost every corner. And the engineer warned him that those stop signs actually make it more dangerous because nobody abides by the stop signs, because there's so many stop signs. So Chris, you would second that. I mean, you gotta follow the manual, and if you don't follow the manual, this is not controlled, am I correct, by the manual?
The weight limit signs are not
Yeah.
correct.
So, I just wanted to give you a little background so we knew what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I know this sign has no teeth to it because we already have the signs. It's already covered as far as that part of the road, but I've tried to explain to these people that really isn't gonna change anything, but they're very adamant about having a sign there. So it's up to us to decide that, or you to decide that, if you want to do it or not. So if we have a motion on the floor, I guess, so all those in favor of putting a sign there signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One nay. Next item is Quinn Road culvert, South 45 West 22360 Quinn Road culvert. I think David kind of handled this, and Chris, and that's why I asked Chris to come tonight to kind of explain the situation here. They were out on site and talked to both property owners, so.
Sure.
You want to start it, Chris, or?
Yeah, I can. I don't want to steal any thunder or anything. Yeah. So I'll kind of start with some history. There's a vacant lot on Quinn Road that is currently being built upon by a builder, single-family home. The next door neighbor to the west, several years ago, had a culvert replaced, driveway culvert replaced by the then town. The culvert is arguably not installed correctly. So the story that David and I got from the property owner at that location was that at the time he had a driveway culvert that was semi-crushed and rotted, and it was sticking out of his driveway stone. His property, if you can visualize it, is probably 10 feet below the road. So his driveway comes off the road at a fairly steep downward slope. And across his frontage, there is no roadside ditch. It basically flows right towards his house. The Quinn Road was developed 100 years ago or whatever, when nobody really had any concern about stormwater and or where to place homes for that matter. The major drainage pattern is through this gentleman's backyard. Everything flows from east to west. And so he asked the town to replace the culvert. He paid for that. Jerry did that work 5 years ago, whatever, a few years ago. And the story that David and I got from him last week when we were on site visiting and discussing the issue was that he wanted to have the culvert raised up in elevation because he wanted to put additional stone in over the top of it. And because as you go west in what would be the ditch line that really doesn't exist, the elevation is higher than the culvert Jerry set. So the upstream end of his culvert is kind of dished out. It gets a little bit of runoff from the road. The culvert has plenty of pitch across across his driveway, but then on the downstream side of the culvert, there's sort of a hole that is 8 or 10 inches deep, and that doesn't drain. And when that fills up, it basically comes towards his driveway in his front yard. So he wanted it raised up so that it would potentially drain west in a ditch that really is undefined but could drain west if we raised it up. So he, I think, has had concerns over the installation of the culvert since it was installed, and he would like to, I think in his words, he would not like Jerry to reset it because he doesn't want Jerry to set it wrong a second time. He would like to redo it himself, and he would like some reimbursement of the fee that he paid for the culvert initially. His, I think, idea was that he would continue and still be willing to pay for all the materials that went in because he's going to keep all that. But he didn't want to pay for the labor to install it because it was done improperly. And so that was one of the reasons why we're here this evening. I think the main reason why we're here, really. Part of the reason why David and I were on site was because the people that are building the new home next door have had some negative experiences with their neighbor, with who has the culvert problem. He's been somewhat argumentative and, at least according to them, calling the police and things of that nature because he just doesn't like what's happening in his what used to be, you know, a vacant lot. As part of that lot's grading plan, I requested that they put a culvert in their driveway and a ditch in front of their house because there's no ditch there now. And as part of that, to grade a ditch or create a ditch in front of the neighbor's property so that we could sort of cut off some of the drainage from going toward his house, because his drainage concerns have been voiced numerous times over the past several years, and I knew this was a problem. As part of that grading plan, we requested that the new owner put in a small rain garden in the backyard to sort of take care of their own drainage. So in more ways than one, we're trying to attempt to help the situation and improve drainage across his front yard. And so David and I went there to talk to him last week about that, and he's, I think, more than agreeable to have that work done, and he's understanding of everything that's going on, but he still has this heartburn over the installation of his driveway culvert. And so I think, I don't know if that's enough said, but
Well, but we reviewed the code and the code said we have to do it.
so, oh, good point, thanks, John, yeah. So, we've reviewed the code and basically it says that the village will install all driveway culverts. So,
I would be very hesitant to have us, so the question, if you agree with that, the question is then, are you going to just not charge him for, is it a new culvert has to be put in?
so I think he can keep the existing culvert, if it can be excavated enough and saved, he can probably keep it.
He can keep the existing culvert. The reason he was asking is because he wanted to work with the builder of the home to the west of him to do the ditch line and his culvert at the same, so it matched, and we did get everything.
The builders
right
to the
across.
east of them, isn't he?
Or, I'm sorry,
East,
to the
yeah,
east.
Yeah.
And I did check into that, and he actually wasn't the one that was calling the cops and dealing
Oh,
with it. It was
okay.
the homeowner to the east of the new home.
Uh-huh.
So, I know what the code says. I guess I was just hoping, being that the builder was doing the ditch line, they could work together on this rather than involving any of us or our DPW.
I think it would set a terrible precedent. Everybody'd say, I wanna save $1,700 and do it myself. Because that's what apparently it costs. But I could understand, Jerry takes the position, it drains and he didn't put it in wrong. But he understands based on the totality of the circumstances that it could be put in a different, could be done better, for lack of words. That's the way I understand it. He says it drains.
I'd hate to say it if Jerry's saying that drains.
So when we were there, it was dry, and I asked him, it does not drain freely, I can tell you that. But when we were there, the downstream end that's in the hole was dry. I asked Chris, the owner, what happens here with this water? He said it just sits in there for a few days and it disappears. So I'm assuming what happens is there's probably more than enough water that sits in that culvert and in that hole on the downstream side, but that anything that is above and beyond that probably overflows and kind of comes either into his front yard or travels west in some sense. We've talked about, maybe we should install a ditch to the east, continue that further. But there's a power pole right there. There's a number of trees that
Is this to the east now, Chris, or to the west?
to the east.
To the east?
Yeah. So I don't think anybody's really kind of interested in opening up that can of worms at this point. So.
Okay, my question is gonna be here is that, seeing as how this is our ordinance, and what is the solution here then if we have to have Jerry out there to do this? Is there some way that we can have people there to supervise the whole operation and get it right, that everybody's happy, that we don't,
Yeah,
we still do the work?
yeah, I think that would be possible. I mean, certainly, having a level, even a 4-foot level would be beneficial to have there so that you could, get this set so that it would drain properly.
Is Jerry gonna do the ditch line then too for the homeowners to the
No.
new home?
No. So they were gonna do that.
Right.
So my understanding was Jerry was gonna set their culvert, and they were gonna do, because they're out there grading their own backyard and side yards and everything else, they were gonna grade the ditch from across their frontage and across the neighbor's frontage to the east.
Because where Jerry sets their culvert's also going to determine how deep
Correct.
that ditch goes.
Right, they were not, the words out of his mouth that I heard from the contractor who was building the house was, we don't wanna set pipes, we would prefer that somebody else does that. So,
Well, according to our code, we have to set the pipe.
correct.
Which brings me up another question. You said they're gonna dig the ditch. Now, why isn't that part of the code then, that somebody else can come in and start digging ditches?
Well, normally when we have platted subdivisions and everything is the way things have been for the last 20 years or whatever, where things are more engineered in subdivisions, that's not an issue because the ditch exists. Developer creates the ditch, developer creates the road, and then somebody building a house builds a driveway and needs a culvert put in. In this case, this subdivision exists and has existed for 1,000 years or whatever, and there is no real drainage associated with it.
So in other words, you're saying that the land or lot owners can create or finish it and get the ditches put in where they should have been
Yeah,
before
in
with
this
the
case, I
developer?
figured since the guy who's gonna be building the house is gonna be grading his lot, he can do a little more.
Okay,
Mr. President,
yes.
is there any way we can, as long as Jerry's on site, have the people do the work? As long as Jerry's on site to supervise it for us?
I don't think that meets the code though, because now we're,
Just because he's not doing the hands-on work, he's still there supervising it at our,
I don't think that's the answer here, the way it sounds, but this guy's real happy with Jerry to begin with, correct, Chris?
Correct. I mean, if this, I think if Chris had his way, he would either do the work himself, because he's, supposedly capable enough, he's worked with the county and has said he's familiar with this kind of work, or that he would work with the neighboring contractor and do it together as a team effort all at once, and keep Jerry out of it, because he just, I think
well, I guess that's
either
what
doesn't like Jerry or doesn't like, what Jerry did, so.
Well, as John says, I hate to start taking precedence here. Everybody doesn't like the situation that says we're gonna do it ourselves. Where is this gonna end? We can't start changing the ordinance and appeasing people by, putting Jerry in it, Jerry out of it.
well, that's what I say, the guy doesn't want Jerry out there to do it again. And we need to be there, whether we have to actually do the hands-on work or if we can just supervise it. Or
That's what I'm
Be
trying
there
to get
and
at in the
moder-
beginning when I said about having somebody out there, like,
Be
I don't
there
know,
to
have
moderate
Chris
through it.
there, even there to, I hate to say the word referee, but in other words, kind of come to a mediation here that this is the right way to do it, and everybody's gonna be happy, because I don't want Jerry to go out there and do this, and then somebody else comes in and says later on, he says, this isn't wrong, this is wrong again, and it doesn't end.
Is this about a 2-hour project? 4 hours? To dig it up and reset a culvert?
I would be surprised if it was 4 hours, but
Yeah, I
something
would be
less than
too.
that.
And the engineer, you bill at $125 an hour?
I think my rate is 190 something.
$190 an hour.
It's expensive, but it's worth every penny.
I'm sure it is.
Okay, that was the commercial part of this night.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay with doing that. I mean, I wear a lot of hats in my engineering career, from attorney to inspector to engineer to reviewer to,
so is that still gonna satisfy our ordinance?
Jerry's doing the work.
If Jerry's doing
It
the
would-
work and he's supervising it or
We'd be
overseeing
going
it, yes,
further.
it would.
So I guess where I'm going with that, maybe if we had the engineer come out and do a final inspection, I don't know that you need to be out there the whole 4 hours.
yeah.
And perhaps the village eats the cost to have him do that to help smooth out the relationship a little bit. Just a suggestion. You do the final inspection before Jerry tops it off with stone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work, Chris, I mean,
That would work
mean,
for
I
me. I don't.
I know it'd work for you, but I mean,
Yeah.
if Jerry's out there and does it wrong,
Yeah.
I'm just
then we're
looking at
Well,
the
redoing
that's-
it.
bad side of it here, but
If we have a fast inspection here before it's finalized, that's probably a much lower cost
I know what you're
Then-
trying to do, I get it, but
Yeah.
yet I'm thinking, you know, once he's got it ready for Chris to inspect it, the work's already done, basically, before he can get out there and inspect it. So now you're gonna dig the culvert up again if it's wrong, that's my point.
Yeah, I think if I was there from the beginning, I could give Jerry some good direction, and,
I would almost
You know,
think you'd be
if it's-
better off in the beginning than the end.
yeah, I think if it's 2 hours worth of work, you know,
To get it started correctly
I-
and,
it's almost not worth me, it's probably worth more for me to stay there the entire time than it is for me to leave and come back, and, you know, it's gonna be the same amount of time that I bill anyway if I'm gonna be traveling back and forth doing that, so I would almost say be there for the whole time, or, you
I
know.
mean, you've got an idea what's going on here between you and David already, go talking to him, so
Yeah.
you know what the answer to the situation is, and
Yeah,
Let's do it over your lunch hour.
that's good by me.
Park right there, watch
Yeah,
them.
I'll bring the culvers.
Great.
yeah, that'd be
But
great. if
that's
that
not gonna
would-
satisfy the ditching part of it either.
What's that?
That's not gonna satisfy the ditching part of it either.
No, but I think the home builder is
The home
more
builder
than-
sounds like he would
yeah,
do that.
he's more than capable of doing that. He's said he's
I-
totally willing to do that. He was just concerned that, you know, Chris, the neighbor, was gonna cause them grief and hardship in doing all the work because he was under the impression that Chris was the one upset, calling cops, making life difficult. So,
I thought we were also responsible for ditching.
Well, that's what I brought up before, but according to that, this thing has been an old development, and then the ditching was never done back in those days.
Okay, but there's a stormwater management plan for the new house. So, as we discussed when I was brought into this, you look to see if there's a stormwater management plan for the subdivision, right? And that it is consistent with it. And even if there is one, and it is consistent, I would assume with a building permit, they have to show the erosion control and stormwater management plan. Either being consistent with the subdivision, or if there was no stormwater management plan with the subdivision, they have to have one with the building permit. In this instance, they've developed a stormwater management plan because there is none for, and we're of the opinion that there is none for the subdivision because of the age of the subdivision. So as part of the building permit, they have to have a stormwater erosion control and stormwater management plan. They do, and that's why the work is being done in the ditch as part of the stormwater management plan. And that stormwater management plan in this case, which is very unique, is going over onto the adjoining property also. It's all part of the new construction stormwater management plan.
well said.
So this is not as uncommon as you think it might be. Every building permit has a stormwater management plan. Many times it's just to be in compliance with the subdivision stormwater management plan. But this one's a little unique, not only because there was none for the subdivision, or if there was, it's so old no one knows where it is. And secondly, because they have to leave their property and go into our right-of-way in the adjoining property to make the stormwater management plan work.
And from what we discussed, prior to this, I believe that this is much more beneficial to that, what's his name's Chris, too? Yeah.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, it's much more beneficial to him in the long run than not having anything done at all, so.
Agreed.
I think that's why he's agreeable to this, and I think it's beneficial to everybody, but I just want to make sure when it's done, that we don't look at this thing 2 months from now, and somebody comes back in and says, well, you guys screwed up, it's not done right again.
Yeah.
I want it done right the first time, so this ends.
The second time.
To me, it's the first time, so.
Correct. Can't disagree.
Right.
So is this gonna be done at no reimbursement to him then?
No, we can, that's up to you guys, but I don't believe we can reimburse them for anything here if we just go out and redo it. He's asking for
asking.
that.
He is.
He's asking to do it,
And to
and
be reimbursed. I don't know why he should get reimbursed for the prior one. He got a culvert, he got the work.
Yep.
I think the issue before you, I suppose you have to decide that, is whether you're gonna charge him anything for redoing it. And I think the staff's recommendation, if you're of a mind to do so, is not to charge him for redoing it, but not to reimburse him for the first one.
No, he was just looking for reimbursement if he did it.
Yeah, he wants to get paid back for being the first time he's claiming was done wrong. He wants to get that money back. But we can't do that, in my opinion. We need to get it set right. According to Chris, it's not draining properly, so if we get it done right, and Jerry's there and does it, that meets our ordinance requirements, and Chris says it's done the right way the second time, everybody's happy, right?
Gosh, I hope so.
Did it drain right the first time?
I kind of doubt it. I don't know. I think the culvert was a lot higher before, and it was probably a smaller culvert. It was probably something that's, non-compliant these days. And so when you add a bigger culvert and you put it down lower, you kind of get what you get. And there's really no ditch on that side of the road until you get kind of to the, even to the west one more lot. So if it did drain, it wasn't all that great. The drainage area that was coming to his culvert was smaller anyhow because there's no ditch in front of his house. So
Well, before that, the vacant lot was vacant, and the water
Correct.
ran down through the vacant lot, basically,
Correct.
and didn't
Everything
go his
drained through his
direction. Now-
backyard.
Right.
And so now if we can, put this ditch in and get the culvert set right, we can at least have the road water not go through his front yard.
Right. And that is our responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your pleasure on this?
Well, Mr. President, I'd make a motion to direct the engineer to supervise the installation and finalization of this culvert project alongside the DPW director at the village expense.
Okay, I will second that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carries, one no. Okay, we move on to number 9. Announce the closed session. You are hereby notified that the village board of the village of Waukesha will convene and made upon motion duly made and seconded, acted upon by roll call vote as required to go into closed session during the course of the meeting. Village board members may attend the closed session. The purposes of the closed session will be as follows. Under Wisconsin Stats 19.851G for conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically to discuss the forfeitures imposed on the property at West 253, South 5714 Crest Drive under Wisconsin Stats 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss the Village of Big Bend, Village of Waukesha Joint Municipal Court.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
Motion by trustee Gurecki to go into closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Kalinsky. Roll call vote, please.
Kalinsky.
Aye.
German.
Aye.
Stigler.
Aye.
Gurecki.
Aye.
Buckles.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. How come I get all these emails over?
here is on and off, okay, because both culverts and everything, okay? This guy up here is like, he said, oh, I work for the county and. Hey, wait, come on. He's cleaning this year.
Oh, where? No. You wanna wait, you gotta pay extra.
That's all your problem. Yeah, I mean, just the one.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Whatever.
Yeah. Right. And I think what Jerry had done in setting the new one was understanding that, set it so that that wouldn't be a problem. And,
There's a problem.
but there's no ditch there.
The culvert's probably not a lot of help, okay, that's not.
No, right.
But getting it out of there without damaging it,
Could be a trouble.
that's a big time problem. 4 hours, that ain't gonna be enough.
Oh, okay.
6 hours. Yeah. You gotta dig that existing one out of there. It's different when you got a lot of this.
Yeah, you should pull it.
Yeah.
Because this does.
I don't know.
That is what it is. Takes what it takes.
Bob's right over. You can't do that stuff. Whatever, but I'm just telling you, it's just a.
I'll probably give Jerry a call, or something. I don't know what their schedule is.
Well, it's, today we're from the morning for football and.
We might as well have it when they're installing the other guy's culvert at the same time. But I don't know from there.
Probably, we usually don't try and do 2 in one day. Drive shaft all the way across the day, bust the ball. Yeah, so, it just, you know, what's gonna happen, we're gonna. If you, we had 2 of them side by side, we're doing one last week, one day, but he was gonna try and do it in one day, and I said, no way, because it's one day, it's the concrete, and then once that out of there.
Yeah.
And it's typically 1 a day.
Yeah.
I know the property next to it, and the house is basically gone.
I think these guys, the neighbors who live in the house, are talking about being ready.
Well, it's ironic when it passed, because last August, I got a complaint for weeds. And the original owners were gonna clear, older couple in the mid-70s, so they drove down, they took care of it, they did a fantastic job. And they, talked about selling, I says, put it on the market, you can sell it right away. Apparently they did, they never told me. There was a house up there. Now, that's since last August. That's how fast
Not
that
fast, yeah. I don't remember when I reviewed the rating on that.
But I mean, it's basically no culvert on the new house.
Correct.
It's flat, they just roll right in there and.
Correct. And they wouldn't
water bill either, so it wouldn't have to be that deep. So, and they could still, and then it's
And
still
there's
be.
plenty of pitch from their house to the next, so
Right.
that's not gonna be a problem.
And what the one that this cliff guy or whatever, that's a larger culvert too. Is it 18 inches or something?
Probably 15. He's probably gonna need to do that for like you.
Yeah, yeah, because there's not much water there. He might get away with a 12,
Right.
which would be able,
And I think Jerry mentioned it was right?
oh yeah, we did, what we did last week was one of those, was more oval.
Yeah.
So you still get the volume, but you don't, you know, it's actually a top and a bottom of that culvert.
Right. Sort of arch.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, yeah, I'll be in touch with Jerry and see where.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be in tomorrow,
Okay,
um,
I'll probably call him next
yeah,
week.
Tuesday we might be out doing another culvert, because we've got a couple of old culverts. That one of these stickers,
Yeah.
they're old and put them up.
10-4,
Okay.
all right, okay, enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Jerry, you're still on there.
Yeah, thanks.
Holiday weekend? The holiday weekend.
I don't think I'm gonna stick around for this.
What was this supposed to be about? Yeah.
I think they're discussing what they're gonna do with the municipal court.
What's that?
I think they're discussing what they're gonna do with the municipal court.
Oh,
Judge, Big Ben, always requests just more, a lot more expenses,
oh,
but she's
yeah.
not doing it. Takes, so far this year, they haven't had a single, they haven't collected a single fee for judgments.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a big mess. Village of Big Ben's a big mess, period.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, so I don't know what they're gonna do. It's not gonna do. So the discussion is, should stay there, should move. That they could join different groups maybe.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be in North Prairie, there used to be the better.
Mm-hmm.
People were common. I don't know, of course. That's a long ways to drive.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad to spend money to drive. It's almost.
So we won't find out
I said-
anything
I
about
said
it when
maybe-
we come back?
I said maybe they should stay there, Village of Big Ben now, municipal judge.
Yeah.
It's incredible, these municipal judges, they have, they don't have any credentials.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh.
I don't know what this one, she was a teacher or something. I don't know what they had when they were a prairie guy up there. He was an engineer.
Oh, dear. Engineers.
All they have to do is go to this class, they take this one, I don't know, it's an online thing. Course, and all of a sudden they're a judge. And I'm like, wow. I mean, there's no credentials. I said, we're not getting any results because people work.
Yeah.
Been painting my barn, I spent the last 2 days just spray painting, sanding.
That's the next thing,
prep
is
work.
getting it right, to
prep
get it
work,
ready.
you know.
And I was taking care of it. Somebody else was.
You got a new one built, right?
Well, a new, storage for, field, electric cars. And for lawn and garden equipment,
Yeah.
things over there.
Yeah.
And then the, replace the one that
The
broke
broke
out.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he able to salvage any of the cars that were in there?
I don't think so. The one that he really wants, he's got the remains of it, our son has them out in Pennsylvania now. One of them. They're, French cars. Their cars are funny.
Oh,
Oh.
I don't remember the name of it, I can picture it though.
Yeah, you can't remember. One's at the store yet, you know, we had two of them,
Yeah.
and the other one's still sitting there. Something happened to it, to the front drive was over,
Oh,
they cleaned out of the, part of the building, and get out of that building themselves.
yeah. You gonna sell it eventually, you think?
Hmm?
Are you gonna sell it eventually?
No,
No.
my son,
Yeah.
he's come back, well, he's coming back to East Troy.
Okay.
He owned a place on the, in Troy,
Okay.
and he's got probably 10 cars in there now.
Okay.
And so, in 3 years, he'll retire out of
Coming
it
back here.
and come back. His daughter is living in it right now before she gets married, and then they'll settle down into the area around here. Get away from Kansas. Come back by Grandpa and Grandma.
Yeah.
On the way to heaven.
Yep. Yeah, oh, it's nice.
Dale could do more,
Age is starting to catch up to him.
it's his balance. He can't stand and walk anymore. He has no strength, but I had more strength than he had.
Well, I know, I said the same thing, well, when I reached 60, I said I noticed a difference already. You don't get as much done, you don't do it as fast,
Mm-hmm.
you're tired a lot quicker,
Yeah.
catches up to you. That's what led me to retire too, I said, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I wanna do something that I wanna do rather than just work all the time.
Yeah.
Get to the point where it's tough to do that.
Mm-hmm. Can do.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
have a husband here, just a granddaughter, so. And the little one's coming
She getting married soon,
in August,
in August.
end of August.
And it's got married in January.
Oh.
So I live at the house now too. Just be there, so. Me and the dog.
Just you and the dog?
Yep. Yep.
Who does the cooking?
Man, not the dog.
No.
No, that's, even when my daughter was there, I still do most of the cooking.
Oh, really?
She worked nights, she's a nurse, and she works nights.
Ah.
So I Yeah.
Mary, her granddaughter did that, she's a contract nurse.
Yeah.
And did that for a while, and just finished that up. And, she's going to start working for Aurora in a clinic in Waukesha. She's working. After they get married, he settle down. A regular job,
Yeah.
not a contract.
Yeah.
Made good money.
Oh, yeah. Always been up here at the hospital. She almost, during COVID, she almost went to Florida.
Oh.
Florida was, they didn't require you to get vaccinated.
Oh.
They, paid nurses starting $100 an hour, but they wanted a 3-year contract with you.
Really?
$100 an hour for 3 years, I could probably do that. I could probably do that. She almost did that. Her and another part of hers, they almost did it. They almost went down there. But then at the last minute, Waukesha relaxed their stuff. She stayed.
Nice bright sunny day was cool.
Yeah, it was cool today. It's supposed to be nice the rest of the weekend. Potentially a little late next week, Thursday. Could do some rain. It's either dry.
Have they built those at school yet?
Or it's almost, yeah, it's almost
Have they?
on the outside, yeah. They're starting to redo the intersection over there on Lonsdale and 164.
Are they?
Lonsdale Road, they're starting. I think the county's doing that. It's all in Lonsdale. It's like constructing that for turn lanes.
Oh.
Yeah, they're moving right along.
Good.
They plan on opening next fall.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, they're taking registrations already. Kindergarten through 4th grade.
Oh.
rented out to tournaments to come in there. I mean, they have nothing to do with the high school.
Right.
How does that benefit how is that a benefit to the high school and make it not taxable? I mean, I can see when Catholic Memorial goes there and plays their games, it's an extension of the high school, it's just an athletic field for the high school. I understand that. But when the Firebirds or, all those guys go in there and play baseball, how is that not taxing? He didn't have an answer for me. He said that's gonna be a real sticky mess. Catholic Memorial is gonna ask for tax exempt on all of the Catholic West. That's $1 million project. They can
Yeah,
take off
I
the
was
tax.
gonna say, you can't have that go.
Interesting. It will be interesting.
Come on, guys, quit your talking and come on. And go home. The baby would have come down there.
Yeah,
Maybe if I show him.
I debated to sit down home and I finished dinner and I'm like, gosh, I'm really comfortable. So I really want to go.
Uh-huh.
Well, I got here, there was nobody else here except for Florida. There was nobody else here. Wow.
Sandy didn't come.
He got here just before the meeting started. You got here just before you did.
Yeah. Get the dishes in the dishwasher and
Yeah,
come.
that too.
Surprised me to see our, what's his name?
Oh, the engineer, Chris?
Yeah, Chris. I've seen him here tonight.
They had questions for him about that
Yeah.
culvert and stuff, and he's been part of that.
The culvert.
They come so prepared to these meetings that, I mean, it's not the whole lights on their permit and sunset. They don't know what the agreement is when they, why didn't they look it up?
Yeah.
This has been on the year this was gonna be on the agenda months ago. They had a whole month, why didn't they look up the agreement? All the information ready to go. They become so unprepared.
No,
I just don't
they're,
get it.
they're no different than the old ones.
I just don't get it. How can you be that unprepared? No? That's even like Chris talking about that, the culvert, Glenn subdivision, we don't think it has stormwater management plan. It was built 100 years ago. Well, no, it wasn't. I mean, Drive was put in like fifties. There's records. You should be able to say there is or there isn't. Definitely, definitively, You shouldn't have to sit here and guess. I said, that's just so unprepared. If I ran the fire department like that, we'd have been say you gotta be decisive. You can't be. You gotta come prepared and then back your talk.
Saying yes and no and get things done.
In this case, he might have been smart to have a thing on the screen to show a drawing to show what he was talking about.
Sure.
I mean, some of these guys, they don't know. He's from West. They don't know what the heck he's talking about. They don't know which way the water's flowing. They don't know what it looks like out there. Like, really? That's like the fire commission, I said.
don't have their chief yet?
No, no. Mike Dewar cut it out of the budget. They haven't put them, they don't know how to get the money back in the budget to pay for it. Because they can't tax enough to raise enough money. They barely, that's why there was no capital expenses, zero. Because they had to use all the money just for the operating budget, because there's not enough money to make the operating budget. And I said, I don't know what they're gonna do this next year. It's not gonna be any better. It's gonna be worse, actually. I said, you can't go without capital improvements. You can't keep putting stuff off. That's just gonna get worse. I said, this building's due for a new roof. That's gonna be $250,000, if not more.
Roofs or probably flat roof.
Yeah. I said, you're looking at, I think you're looking at $250,000 for roof. Where's that money gonna come from?
And to find somebody to do.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You know, what are they gonna do about snow plowing? Okay, they still kick that up because they don't have the plan. They don't have the money to go out and buy trucks,
Oh.
so what do you do? And I said, if these guys they contract with, if they quit, now what? Genesee's in that boat right now, because they use Wolf, and Wolf's not gonna pump snow. So they don't know what they're gonna do. They have one long truck.
Oh.
One public works worker, so they got a driver for it, but they're in the same boat. Where do you find trucks? You're not gonna well pick up a truck real quick. There's not.
And then to equip the trucks.
So we had that one catch fire here, they were lucky they found that one. That was only because the village of Eagle couldn't buy it. They put it on their list of stuff to buy, on their capital list to buy, and then they added it to the state business so that they could get one made. And when it came time to buy it, they couldn't put the money together. So they couldn't buy it. So they manufactured, put it up for sale. We happened to be there at the right time. So I mean, we're gonna roll the hurt for this next round, this next budget year, they're gonna struggle. They're gonna struggle.
Even people to run for, on the board is a struggle, I think.
Who wants the job? You know, it's such a thankless job. You know, and you're never gonna make everybody happy.
No.
I said they cater to people way too much. I said after the snowball season, said my phone's ringing off the wall with people complaining about grass getting ripped up along the edge of the road and stuff in the snowballs. I'm like, you know, when I was a kid, my mom and dad would say, take the rake, go out there and clean that up along the road. They didn't make a call down here to say, hey, who's gonna come and fix that? And I said, the first 3 feet is shoulder anyhow, it's not very wordy. You know, that's the shoulder of the road, it gets tore up, that's the way it is. They're not supposed to have one all the way out to the edge of the road, they're supposed to be a gravel shoulder. I don't know. I don't know how the garbage pickup's gonna go. Got 2 controllers to that now, they got that one at the school level.
We haven't had any trouble.
I'll put my garbage out maybe once a month.
Well, ours, we have them come up the drive,
Yeah.
and
That's a long way to take, it's a long way to take yours to the drive to the road.
a tenth of a mile,
Yeah.
come up. Couple nice guys.
Yeah.
Sunday night, recycled, and the others are plastic bags that have to go into the garbage. Not getting as many birds around it.
I have a lot of birds around this year. I don't feed them either, but they go and they feed out of the cow's feed bin, is what they do, or out of the feed trough, that's what they do. Go and dump the feed in there for the cows, and the birds are in there as thick as the cows are. Make sure they get their share. I had 2 sets of cranes this year in the yard. Yeah, I got 2 sets of cranes out there.
Well, they don't come into our property because it's all
All
wooded.
wooded, yeah. Yeah, they land out in the field. Started out this year, I had 1 crane and 2 geese. The 3 of them hung out. The 2 geese and this crane hung out for probably the biggest share of March and April. And now I haven't seen the 2 geese, but the crane now has made. So now there's 2 pairs of cranes. But I haven't seen the geese back. I'm sure the geese moved down closer to the water and feed.
Hummingbird. One little hummingbird. And the cardinals are always there. But the orioles come back to sleep, even right on their calendar when they come
Yeah.
in first of May. This year, the oriole came the first of May, for the hummers came the 10th of May. Because of the weather.
Yeah. I've seen 1 hummingbird on my house too. I've only seen him once. Flooded up by the front window. The only time I've seen it, I haven't seen it since. It's there for 1 day.
There's grosbeak and tanagers and no.
I have those nasty old noisy grackles.
Oh.
Oh, I don't know where they came from this year, but I've got hundreds of those around this year. I've always had barn swallows, or barn swallows that are in and out of the barn constantly.
We don't have
request.
Yes.
$250. Okay, we are back from closed session. There's really just a discussion and possible action on items discussed in closed session. I think we just direct the president to go into, to do what was discussed in closed session, if that's correct.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to direct what was discussed,
To proceed.
to
as
proceed as directed in closed session, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries?
Who did the second? I'm sorry.
Stu. Now to authorize the bills in the amount of $110,951.50. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I'll move to pay the bills in the amount of $110,951.50.
The motion was made by trustee Gurecki. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by trustee German. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. I believe the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is somebody willing to do that? I will make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one stuck around.